Good day! Welcome to Australia's #1 game show, Bridge of Fortune, a game all about bridges and bridges alike. I am your host, Miguel Sumalinog. Let me introduce to you our contestants. For our first contestant, we have two-time and reigning MVP from the NBA, Jansen Edric Abustan. And for our second contestant, we have two-time Grammy Award winner, one Oscar nomination, and Nobel Prize winner of 2017, Gio Lamsen Duran.
Introducing your host, Miguel Sumalino.
Good day. Are you ready to play some Bridge of Fortune?
Yes!
Yes. So, before you play, let's take a look at the mechanics. In Bridge of Fortune, there will be two contestants and one wheel. The first player will then spin the wheel and then pull off the paper that's part of the wheel. The player will then choose to either pass or play. If the player chooses to play and gets the answer right, he will get a point. But if he gets the answer wrong, the opposing player has the option to steal the question. Now, if the opposing player answers the question correctly, he will then get a point. But if he doesn't, the original player will get the point. If the player chooses to pass, the other player has to answer the question. If he gets it right, he gets a point. But if he gets it wrong, the original player gets the point. You guys get the mechanics?
Yes!
Well, let's start the game. Let's bring in the Super Wheel! Now, to know who player will go first, we will then have a rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, and the winner.
Well, here we go. Mr. Gio Duran will be the first player. Let's start the first round. Are you ready?
Yes.
Alright, let's spin the Super Wheel. And for our first question, how many years did it take for the bridge's completion?
8 years.
8 years? Are you sure about your answer?
Yes.
Well, 8 years is correct!
Considering all steps towards creation, the planning for the bridge started as early as 1922, 10 years before its opening. However, taking only to account its main construction along with clearing operations, it took an overall 8 years. Though the creation of the steel frame was fast, what delayed its construction is the delivery of materials coming from different countries around the globe.
Well, Mr. Jansen, will you be intimidated by Gio's answer?
No.
Well, let's start round 2. Let's spin the Super Wheel. For your question is,
Bruh.
what is the function of the Sydney Harbour Bridge's lower arc? 5 seconds.
Y is equals to negative 0.00188 quantity x minus 251.5 squared plus 118.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Well, whatever you answered is correct!
Given the equation of a parabola in its standard form of f times x is equals to a, quantity x minus h plus k, and with the arc provided, the only variable missing in order to complete the equation is the variable a, which cannot be equal to 0. With its road measuring 503 meters and its height being 118 meters from sea level to its maximum point, we can state that the value of h is 251.5, and the value of k is 118. To find x and y, we must simply locate any random point along the arc that possesses a whole number as its coordinates for easier computations. In this case, we can use the points with coordinates 503 and 0, which is also its x-intercept. points below circles in red are the few points that can be used. With all the values of the equation available, all we need now is a variable a, and in order to find its value, we will use substitution. From there, we can get our answer.
And now we're down to just 6 questions. Now, Mr. Gio Duran, are you ready to play? Round 3.
Yes.
Yes. Alright, let's spin the super wheel. For your question. Let's see. On what date did the bridge first open?
Um,
5 seconds.
I guess 1932.
You guessed 1932. Is 1932 your final answer?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm very sure.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Well, he is sure and I am sure. The answer is correct!
As the bridge opened at the 19th of March in the year of 1932, it marked the end of almost a century of speculations and planning. Before its final blueprints were created, various predictions of either which a through or a steel arc bridge is to be constructed. Also, architects and engineers from all around the world submitted their own proposals for the bridge.
Well, Mr. Jansen, looks like Mr. Gio is leading by 1 point. Will you be let loose to that?
No.
Well, let's play round number 4. Let's spin the super wheel. For your question. How many men were recruited to in order to complete the bridge? Are you gonna pass or play?
Play.
Are you gonna play? Alright. Now, what is the answer? 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. You ran out of time! Now, Mr. Gio, do you know the answer to steal it or not?
No, I don't think I know the answer.
You don't know the answer. Well, sadly, nobody answered the question correctly. The answer is 1,400 men.
With the inclusion of all casualties, engineers, architects, and regular workers, it took an estimated 1,400 men in order for the bridge's completion. Several casualties have taken place in the bridge's construction due to its incredibly high altitude and lack of machinery.
Well, now we're at round 5, and Mr. Gio right here is still leading by 1 point. Now, Mr. Gio, do you want to continue?
Yes.
Alright, let's spin the super wheel. Oh, let's see. How many liters of paint were used in the making of the bridge? Will you pass or play?
I pass.
You pass.
Yes.
Do you accept the pass?
Yes.
Well, what is the answer?
272,000 liters of paint were used to paint the bridge.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Well, sadly to say, you are correct!
Including the bridge's overall structure, it took approximately 272,000 liters of paint in order to coat it multiple times. However, due to the steelworks' annual maintenance, the main steel frame is recoated yearly, which consumes an estimated 30,000 liters of paint, while the other bridge structures are maintained every other year.
Well, Mr. Abustan, congratulations on winning that previous round. Score is now tied 2-2. So, are you ready to play?
Yes.
Well, let's spin the super wheel. And for your question, hold on, you're having some technical. What is the arc span of the Sydney Harbour Bridge's lower and upper arc? 5 seconds. 4.
I think it's 503 meters.
Did you find it in Google?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Well, the answer is correct.
Considering the bridge possessing two pairs of arches that differ in curvature, namely its parabolic function, the two pairs of arches are of the same length and span, with the
is now leading by 1 point. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna get back.
You're gonna get back. Alright, let's see if he will get back. Let's spin the super wheel. And for your question, let's see. What is the width of Sydney Harbour Bridges Road? 5, 4,
49 meters.
49 meters.
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
49 meters. Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, that's your distance from winning the game. Your answer is correct.
With the bridge being extremely wide, measuring at precisely 49 meters, it carries a total of 9 lanes, 1 lane for pedestrian or cyclists, and 8 lanes for vehicles. However, in its first few decades, the 2 leftmost lanes were used as railways, only to be shut down in 1958. Since then, the 2 leftmost lanes are now being used as vehicular lanes upon its conversion.
Mr. Jansen, the game is all tied up. We only have one more question left. Let's see what you get. Your question is, what is the function of the Sydney Harbour Bridge's upper arc? 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. You don't know the answer. Do you steal? You know the answer. You don't know the answer?
No.
Well, looks like we have a tie. We're moving on to the tiebreaker questions.
Before we move on to the tiebreaker questions, to find an arc's parabolic function, we use the standard form of its equation, which is f times x is equal to a quantity x minus h plus k. However, to utilize it, we need the variables x, y, h, k, and a, where variable a cannot be equal to 0. Due to being wider, the upper arc's maximum point is closer to its arc span, measuring at 73 meters, with the upper arc sharing the same length of arc span with the lower arc, measuring at exactly 503 meters. We can conclude that the upper arc has the vertex 251.5 and 73. To define the values of x and y, you must simply locate any random point along the arc that possesses a whole number as its coordinate for easier computations. In this case, we can use the point with coordinates 503 and 0, which is also its x-intercept. Points below circled in red are the few points that can be used. With all the values of the equation available, all we need now is variable a, and in order to find its value, we will use substitution. From there, we can get our answer. And the answer is y equals to negative 0.00116 quantity x minus 251.5 squared plus 73.
Looks like you're so close at the $1 million question, but yet, so far. Well, now we're at the tiebreaker portion of the game. For the mechanics of this portion, you will have 5 questions for 10 seconds. Whoever has the highest points between these two will go to the $1 million question. Now, Mr. Gio here will answer the very first part. Mr. Jansen, may you please exit? Thank you. Now, Mr. Gio, are you ready?
Yes, I'm
Alright. Well, let's start the tiebreaker challenge. Mr. Gio, are you ready for the tiebreaker questions?
Yes, I'm ready.
Alright, 5 questions, 10 seconds. Let's start. First question. What is the total cost of the bridge's construction considering 1930s economy?
4.2 million US dollars.
Second question. What was the bridge's nickname due to its arch-based design?
The coat hanger.
Number 3. Which bridge influenced the Sydney Harbour Bridge's design?
Hellgate Bridge in New York.
4. Who was the appointed chief engineer of the Sydney Harbour Bridge?
Pass.
5th question. Under which British firm was the bridge built?
Norman Long and C-O-N-T.
Alright. Fantastic job you did there, Mr. Duran. Well, let's move on to our second contestant. May call in Mr. Jansen Edric Agustan. Alright, Mr. Duran, we now exit. Thank you. Alright. Come here. 5 questions, 10 seconds. Are you ready?
Yes!
Alright, for your first question. What is the total cost of the bridge's construction considering 1930s economy?
$4.2 million.
Alright. What was the bridge's nickname due to its archway design?
The coat hanger.
Which bridge influenced the Sydney Harbour Bridge's design?
I don't know the answer.
Pass, right. Who was the appointed chief engineer of the Sydney Harbour Bridge?
John Bradfield.
And lastly, under which British firm was the bridge built?
I don't know the answer.
Pass, right. Alright. Well, what a fantastic job you did there, Mr. Jansen. May I now call in our first contestant, Mr. Gio Duran? Alright. We will see who will win right after a word from our sponsors.
Experience the Bridge of Fortune to your very own home. It's super nice. It's super fun. Yes, it's super fun.
Well, now we are back from a word from our sponsors. Do you guys want to know who wins?
Yes, of course.
Alright, the winner for the tiebreaker questions is Mr. Gio Duran! Mr. Jansen, I'm sorry, but you have to leave. But don't worry, you win 30,000 bucks and a consolation prize of the Super Wheel. You know, please exit. Let's move on to the $1 million question. Looks like you're here at the $1 million question. Now, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Are you ready to get the $1 million?
Yes.
Alright, let's play the $1 million question. Here is your question. For your question. As horses were allowed to cross the bridge in its first few decades, how much now does it cost for a horse to cross? 5.
Not really a horse lover, but I say $3.30.
3.30 US dollars?
US dollars.
Well, looks like we have a millionaire! So we have here our millionaire, Mr. Gio Duran. Thank you for watching. I am your host, Miguel Somalino, and this is The Bridge.